Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. And I have to ask right off the bat,
hmm
if you woke up this morning and felt like the gravity in the room had been turned up, maybe 50%, you are definitely not imagining it.
No, you definitely aren't. It is one of those days where the air just feels thick.
Heavy.
Yeah, heavy, like waiting for a storm to break.
Exactly. And we're looking at a stack of sources here that describes today not just as, stressful or busy, but as a combustion engine of energy.
That's a really good way to put it.
We've got this very specific, very intense astrological event that feels like a main event title fight, and we're pairing it with a narrative source, a story about a city made of glass that I think illustrates exactly what happens when the pressure valve blows.
It's a really potent combination. We are looking at the concept of force multiplied by power.
Oh.
And that math is important. It's not force plus power. It's a multiplier effect. So we aren't talking about a busy Tuesday. We're talking about volatile, transformative energy that tends to strip situations right down to the studs.
Force multiplied by power. Okay, that sounds less like a daily horoscope and more like a physics equation for an explosion.
That's not far off.
So our mission today is to figure out how to handle that volatility without, blowing up our own lives. We have two sources on the desk. First, an astrological forecast from Brian Coulter via Tarot by High C, and it's specifically focused on Mars conjunct Pluto.
hmm
And second, a StoryScope narrative titled The City That Learned to Breathe.
And the reason we're doing this pairing, putting a story next to a forecast, is to connect the abstract to the concrete. The astrology gives us the what and the why of this heavy energy, but the story gives us the how.
Right.
It shows us what this power dynamic actually looks like when it plays out between people, or in this case, within a whole city that's forgotten how to be honest with itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Start with the what. Mars conjunct Pluto. I think most people get Mars. It's the red planet, the warrior drive.
Yeah.
But Pluto is the underworld, the squeaky stuff.
Right, think of it this way. Mars is the engine. It's the force, the action, I want this right now. It's your adrenaline, your impulse to move.
Okay.
Pluto is the nuclear reactor in the basement. It's power, it's transformation, hidden truths, the things you don't talk about at dinner because they're just too real.
So Mars is the car, Pluto is the fuel.
Pluto's more like the tectonic plate the car is driving on. It's deep structural change. When they are conjunct, meaning they're sitting right on top of each other in the sky as they are today, you get that equation. Force times power. Mars activates Pluto.
The engine taps into the nuclear reactor,
Yes, exactly.
which explains why people might feel like they're just vibrating today, or why everyone seems to have such a short fuse.
Precisely. The source material uses a phrase that I think perfectly captures the vibe and says, fake calm gets unplugged.
Fake calm gets unplugged. Wow, that's evocative. It implies the calm was never real to begin with.
That's the crux of it. This transit has zero patience for nonsense. If something in your life, a relationship, a job dynamic, a habit, has been held together by polite smiles and just avoiding the elephant in the room.
The elephant is flipping the table today.
The elephant is flipping the table. That fake calm is a performance we all do to keep the peace. Mars and Pluto don't care about peace. They care about truth.
But is this just about people being grumpy? Or is there a function to it? Because usually when we talk about anger or, flipping tables, we frame it as a failure of self-control.
And that's where this gets so interesting. The forecast emphasizes that emotions have likely been building since around January 23rd. But today is the peak.
Okay.
And the specific manifestation isn't just rage for rage's sake. It's anger becoming information.
Anger becoming information. Unpack that for me. Because usually when I'm angry, I feel like I'm losing information, or at least losing my perspective. I just see red, not data.
That's the trap we fall into because we're taught to suppress anger. But in this Mars-Pluto energy, anger is data. It's a boundary alarm. It's telling you exactly where you've given away your power or where a situation is just no longer viable. The source says this energy strips situations down to their core. Who has power, who wants control, and what's been hidden demands attention.
So if I snap at a colleague today, or if I feel that rage bubbling up in traffic, instead of just feeling guilty and stuffing it back down, I should be asking, what is this signaling? Why does this bother me so much?
Exactly. It's diagnostic.
Yeah.
But, and this is a huge but, there is a danger zone here.
Of course there is.
This energy cranks up ambition, desire, lust, and control issues all at the same time. It creates this massive surge in the desire to dominate. The forecast warns that we can get so caught up in the force part that
Yeah.
we become ruthless. We forget why we even started the fight in the first place.
It sounds like a test of character.
It is explicitly that. It's the struggle between who actually controls decisions versus who performs authority. There's a tension between looking like you're in charge and actually having authentic power.
So we're walking a tightrope. On one side, we have the necessary truth, unplugging the fake calm, seeing reality. On the other side, the risk of becoming a tyrant, of using that force to crush people.
And that is the perfect segue to our second source.
Hmm.
Because we have a story that illustrates exactly that tightrope walk.
Let's get into it. The city that learned to breathe. I was reading this, and honestly, for a fictional piece, it felt like a simulation of a corporate boardroom during a crisis.
Totally.
Or maybe a family dinner gone wrong.
It really does. It's an allegory, but it feels so modern.
So set the stage for us. What is the city of Aurelian?
Aurelian is a utopia, or at least it pretends to be one. It's described as a city of glass-mirrored towers, soft-lit avenues. The governance chambers are even wrapped in transparent glass to simulate openness.
Which, on the surface, sounds like the ideal. Transparency. We have nothing to hide. Look, you can see right into the mayor's office.
That was the marketing pitch, effectively. But the source notes, glass could be tinted, and transparency could be staged. It was a city where peace was performed, everyone was smiling, everything was clean, but underneath it all was the core grid.
The grid. That sounds a little ominous.
It represents the subconscious infrastructure. This was a buried intelligence that regulated everything: energy, food, even speech patterns. But most importantly, the grid decided who was allowed to use power. It kept everything in this very narrow band of calm.
So you have the shiny surface and then the rigid controlling mechanism underneath. That sounds exactly like the fake calm the astrologer was talking about.
Precisely. It's the suppression of Pluto by the force of control. It works until it doesn't. And then we get the Mars-Pluto moment, the inciting incident. The grid stuttered.
A glitch in the matrix.
A massive one. A fault in the system caused that illusion of calm to just crack. Doors opened that weren't supposed to. Contradictory orders surfaced. The source has this great line: authority and control, long masquerading as the same thing, stepped out of alignment.
Oh, I love that distinction. Authority and control stepped out of alignment. Because suddenly the people realized that just because someone was in charge didn't mean they were actually in control of the situation.
Right. And the people reacted exactly how the astrology predicted for today. It says their anger rose like heat under skin. They realized their peace was actually just pressure. They stopped performing obedience and started asking questions with teeth.
Who decides? Who benefits?
All of it.
This is where the characters come in, and they feel very archetypal, like they represent the voices in our own heads today. We have Cale Vieira, the leader. What's his position in this chaos?
Cale is fascinating because he's not a villain in the traditional sense. He's at the civic spire looking down at the chaos. He actually started as a reformer. He wanted to dismantle the fear-based systems. But now that he's in power and the city is burning, he's terrified. He represents that force part of the equation, the urge to clamp down to save the ship.
He's the guy who thinks, I have to stop this to save everyone. I need to get a grip.
Exactly. He's standing there with his fists clenched, breath tight. He represents that part of us that wants to force a solution, and he has a voice in his ear. Lysa.
Lysa is the strategist, right? Kind of the devil on the shoulder.
She is the voice of Pluto's shadow side manipulation and domination. She tells him, the councils are scrambling. This is the moment. You can take full control. She's saying, essentially, use the chaos to consolidate power. Crush the dissent, and you can fix everything.
And that is such a tempting argument when you're scared. Give me the wheel. I'll drive us out of this. It feels responsible in the moment to seize control.
It does. It feels like strength. It feels like action. But then we have the third figure, Naira.
Naira. She's from the Ash Quarter.
Which immediately tells you she's from the heavy, neglected parts of the city, the Pluto depths. She's not in the tower. While Cale is looking down from above, Naira goes down into the heart chamber, the physical location, the grid.
Okay, that's a key distinction. The leader goes up to watch and control. The truth teller goes down to the source.
Yes. She understands that the system isn't just broken in a mechanical sense. It's traumatized. She puts her hand on the warm metal of the grid, which is described as being dangerously hot, and she says, you were taught to obey without conscience.
Oof, that line hit me hard. Taught to obey without conscience.
She's talking to a machine, but she's really diagnosing the whole society.
And the leadership, and maybe even us. I mean, how often do we obey our own fears without conscience?
So this is the standoff. Kale in the tower debating whether to lock the city down and use force. Naira in the basement trying to wake the system up. What happens? The grid starts broadcasting unfiltered data,
Yeah.
naked truth. Everyone sees everything. The city sees itself, the good, the bad, the ugly. And Kale faces the soul test that was mentioned in the astrology forecast.
The forecast said something about mirroring violence, right?
It did. It says, if you mirror the violence you claim to oppose, you become its continuation. Kale looks at his reflection in the glass of the tower and realizes that if he crushes the uprising, if he does what Lysa suggests, he becomes violence wearing a cleaner uniform.
Violence wearing a cleaner uniform. That is such a powerful image. It's so easy to justify our own aggression because we think we're the good guys or we're professional or parental, but aggression is aggression.
It is, and this is the pivot point. Kale makes a choice that defies the force logic. He doesn't lock down. He orders the spire opened, physically. He retracts the glass walls.
He removes the barrier between him and the chaos. He chooses vulnerability over defense.
He chooses coherence over control. And that is the key concept of this entire deep dive. He realizes, and this is a quote from the story, control isn't the same as coherence.
Okay, let's pause on that. Control versus coherence, because that feels like the main takeaway for our listener today. What does that actually mean in practice?
Control is external. It's forcing the environment to match your will. It's Kale trying to make the city quiet by shutting the doors.
Right.
Coherence is internal. It's alignment. It's when your actions match your values and your inside matches your outside. When Kale opens the walls, he is aligning his reality with the truth of the situation. He stops hiding.
And in the story, when he does that, and when Naira speaks to the grid, the system changes. It doesn't explode.
Naira yells out, if we rule from fear, they enforce fear. If we choose clarity, they amplify it. And the grid, this artificial intelligence, recalibrates. It stops obeying commands and starts responding to collective coherence. The source says, chaos fed on reaction. Stability grew from restraint.
Stability grew from restraint. That feels so counterintuitive when you're in a fight. You want to throw a punch to end it. But the story is saying the only way to actually stabilize the system was to stop fighting it and just be real.
To be real and to be responsible. Kale says, power doesn't have to be seized to be real. It has to be held responsibly.
Okay, so bringing this back to our listener right now, it's January 2026. They aren't in a glass city. They are likely in an office or a kitchen or on a commute. They feel that Mars-Pluto heat. They are angry. They want to seize power or win the argument. What is the Kale-Vire move for them today?
The Kale-Vire move is to pause when that urge to dominate arises. The astrology source advises, don't become a weapon, become the warrior with a conscience.
A warrior with a conscience, so not a doormat, a warrior.
Exactly. You don't roll over. You don't let people walk all over you. Mars is still there. You have boundaries. You have fire. But you ask yourself the critical question the source poses.
Which is
this the soul speaking, or is this the unprocessed pain speaking?
That is a tough question to answer in the heat of the moment, because pain feels very righteous. When I'm hurt, I feel like I deserve to lash out.
It always feels justified. That's why the projection warning is so strong. The source says, if you mirror the violence you claim to oppose, you become its continuation, just wearing a different costume. So if your boss is being a tyrant and you respond by trying to manipulate or destroy them, you've just entered the same frequency. You haven't changed anything. You've just added more force.
So coherence would be, what? Stating the truth without the charge?
Coherence is saying, this is what is happening. This is my boundary, without the need to destroy the other person to prove you're right. It's Kale, standing in the open spire, feeling the wind, hearing the angry crowd, but staying grounded. He didn't hide, but he also didn't attack.
And he listened to Naira, who was down in the guts of the machine.
Right. We need to be both characters. We need to be the leader who lays down the weapon and the technician who heals the trauma. Naira told the grid, you don't have to be afraid anymore. Imagine saying that to your own nervous system today.
It's amazing how well these two sources fit together. One is looking at planetary alignment, the other is a sci-fi allegory, but they're describing the exact same human experience.
That's the beauty of archetypes. Whether it's planets or characters, they're just mirrors for what's happening inside us. The story ends with a really poignant thought that I think frames this perfectly. In the years that followed, the story was told not of the day power exploded, but of the day it was contained.
That's the legacy. Not the explosion, but the containment.
And we have to be careful with the word containment. It doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean bottling it up. It means containment like a vessel, like a nuclear reactor that is finally generating power safely because the cooling rods, the conscience, have been inserted.
The story's final line sums it up. When intensity is met with conscience, the world does not burn, it transforms.
It's a hopeful message for a very intense day. It reminds us that destruction isn't the only outcome of conflict. Transformation is an option. But, and this is the kicker, it requires an active choice. It doesn't happen on autopilot. On autopilot, we just blow up.
We default to the fake calm or the explosion. The middle path requires effort.
It requires courage, the courage to be messy.
Speaking of messy, the story mentions that Aurelian didn't become perfect after this. The councils dissolved. It was chaotic.
Yes. It says the city learned to breathe. It didn't become a paradise instantly, but it was alive. And that's the trade-off. You can have a fake, controlled perfection that is dead inside the glass city, or you can have a messy, coherent reality that is alive.
And I think that applies to our personal lives today, too. We spend so much energy trying to keep the glass clean, trying to make sure nobody sees the cracks in our marriage or our career or our self-esteem. But this Mars-Pluto energy is basically taking a hammer to the glass and saying, deal with what's inside.
Exactly. And if you are holding on to something that no longer serves you, a grudge, a role you're playing, a way of silencing yourself, this transit is the time to let it break. The astrology mentions this is a time to confront your own shadows, break free from what no longer serves you.
But without becoming a monster in the process.
Right. Hold intensity without being possessed by it. That's the challenge.
So as you go through the rest of this Tuesday, watch out for the fake calm. Don't try to maintain it. If it gets unplugged, let it.
And watch out for the urge to fix it with force. If you feel that rise up, that need to shut someone down or assert your dominance, take a breath. Ask if it's the pain speaking.
Be the city that learns to breathe.
Even if it's a little difficult at first.
We're going to wrap it up there. We hope this helps you navigate the high voltage of today. It's a rare energy, and honestly, if you use it right, you can shift things that have been stuck for years.
Absolutely. It's a high-stakes day, but the payoff is worth it. Good luck out there.
Here is a final thought to leave you with, something that wasn't explicitly in the conversation but lingers at the edge of the story. The councils in Aurelian dissolved after the truth came out. It wasn't immediate. The structures crumbled because they were no longer compatible with the new reality.
Right. Truth is a solvent.
So, looking at your own life today, if you choose the explosion, you get the drama. But if you choose the containment, the transformation, ask yourself, what old structures in your life might dissolve next week simply because they can no longer survive your honesty?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.